Hello Dark Angels players and welcome to Planet 40k. So we started the Dark Angels review series with Azrael and went on and reviewed the Ravenwing Apothecary. Next in line we have another one of the big cheeses within the Dark Angels force, which is the Grand Master of the Deathwing, Belial. Before we dive in, today's random shout out goes to Iron Frenzy 217 for this comment shown here, so shout out to you. So get involved in the comments below and maybe you get a shout out in the next Dark Angels video. So Belial, he's in the HQ area of the supplement of course, he's a named character, so not only one of these can be taken. He's 7 power level or 140 points, so let's begin with the keywords of note. So he carries a Deathwing keyword, he's a character so he's got that Lookout Sir buff. He's a member of the Inner Circle, which I'll explain in the abilities section. He's a Terminator, a Captain, and finally an Infantry model. So a fair amount of keywords that links to buffs and all sorts of stratagems within both your books there. As for his stat line, he's got a movement of 5 inch, weapon skill 2+, ballistic skill 2+, strength 4, toughness 4, wound 6, attacks 4, leadership 9 and a 2+ save. So pretty ordinary there, has the same stats as a Terminator Captain. In terms of abilities, Belial has the Angels of Death, as all Marines do, so Shock Assault, Bolter Discipline and Combat Doctrines will play a role within the game. He's got the chapter tactic of Grim Resolve. Each time you make an attack, if you haven't moved in that turn, you're going to add 1 to your attacks rolls. He's then got a unique ability called Grand Master of the Deathwing. Using the command phase, you select a friendly Deathwing core unit or a friendly Deathwing character unit within 6 inches, so that could be himself, and they simply get to reroll their hit rolls, so it's effectively like a chapter master ability. He's then got the Inner Circle ability, so he auto passes morale, which isn't that important here. He cannot fall back from fallen units. The main thing here though is any unmodified wound rolls of a 1, 2 or 3 will always fail against him, irrespective of any abilities. So you need a 4+ just to wound him. He's then got his Iron Halo, which is a 4+ invuln save, so a 2+, 4+ is pretty solid. He's got the Parrying Blade, which is a -1 to hit him in melee, which adds even more to his resiliency. Quite an underrated as an ability, as he's rarely getting targeted at range due to the Lookout Sir, so really it's only in melee where he's going to get picked off. Then he's got the Rites of Battle ability as he's a captain. So the rerolls are 1 to core units within 6 inches. So 1 unit within 6 inches will reroll all the hits with the Grand Master of the Deathwing ability, and the rest of them within the 6-inch aura will reroll 1s. He's then got teleport strikes for his deep strike in turn 2 onwards, as long as he comes in more than 9 inches away from enemy models. Then finally, he's got the Super Doctrine, which is the Deathwing Super Doctrine of Sons of the Lion, which is implacable. While the Assault Doctrine is active for your army, each time a Deathwing Infantry or Deathwing Dreadnought model from the army makes a melee attack against a character, or a unit that contains a wound characteristic of 8 or more, you can reroll the wound rolls. So decent keywords and decent abilities so far. Next, let's check out the Wargear. So Belial comes with a Mastercrafted Bolter and a Sword of Silence. So starting with that Mastercrafted Bolter, 24 inch range, rapid fire 2, strength 4, -1 AP and 2 damage. So he's likely getting 4 shots when he's deep striking in, as he'll be within 12 inch range for that Bolter discipline, or if he just stands still in the movement phase he can shoot 4 shots at 24 inches, again with the Bolter discipline. He hits on 2, so he should at the very least be getting 3 hits, likely wounded on 4s. Then a -1 AP puts power armor down to a 50-50 save, and then 2 damage removes those marines. The average of an unsaved wound going through a toughness 4 model with a base save of a 3+ is 0.83, so you're likely removing a marine here. Against weaker factions it's more like 2 models, as it's easier to wound toughness 3 and easier to remove those armor saves of a 5+ or worse. So not incredible by any stretch, but I think of it as a way of having some extra attacks before you make your charge move, and it does slightly improve in the tactical doctrine, making it -2 AP. The Sword of Silence, which is his melee weapon, it's strength +2 making it strength 6, -4 AP and the damage is a flat 3. It also wounds non-vehicles on a 2+, which again is a very underestimated ability. Against toughness 5 is effectively strength 10, against toughness 4 is effectively strength 8. It's only vehicles which don't wound on 2s, but it's still strength 6 anyway, so even light vehicles are still getting wounded on a 4+. Also something very easy to miss here is he's a monster killer. Monsters are obviously not vehicles, so even a toughness 8 Turbogun from the Tyrannid faction would make him effectively strength 16 as he's still wounded on 2s. So the way you go about using this weapon is simply avoid things like dreadnoughts, they are vehicles, everything else is going to get sliced apart. So this actually makes our breakdown very simple. If he's fighting against anything that's not a vehicle, he's got 4 attacks base and 1 for Shock Assault, meaning 5 attacks that hit on 2s. He could use that Grandmaster ability on himself to reroll those misses, but it's probably better served on a Deathwing Terminator unit nearby. From those 5 attacks he averages 4.7 hits, which turns into 3.5 wounds. This is where the fork in the road comes, so 2 wound models such as Intercessors, you'll get 3 casualties. Terminators will likely be more like 2, because they've got an invuln save to defend against that -4 AP. Monsters are taking an average of 10.4 damage, Now the damage comes in 3, so it's likely going to be somewhere between 9 and 12 damage, as he hits on 2s and wounds on 2s. So a solid weapon against most things. If you do decide to go against a vehicle with a weapon, then if it's toughness 6, you're going to score about 6 damage, and toughness 7, slightly over 1 unsaved wound on average, so you should be getting a flat 3 damage there. So even toughness 6 vehicles aren't the worst target, especially the ones that don't fight back. As mentioned, avoid dreadnoughts. Yes, you do have the -1s to hit in melee, and yes, you've got a 4+ in-1 save, but with 6 wounds and toughness 4, you're likely going to lose the model, even if it does take a few turns to do so. So next we've got his Warlord trait, as is a named character. So he's got Inexorable, which is each time an attack is allocated to the Warlord, subtract 1 from the attack's damage characteristic to a minimum of 1. So even more resiliency to an already pretty tanky model. So that's the weapons covered and the Warlord trait. Let's break into some stratagems, firstly starting with a supplement. So you can use Line Unbreakable, which is 1 command point. Using the fight phase, you select an infantry unit from your army, and until the end of the phase, the unit can only be selected as a target for melee attacks if the attacking model is within engagement range. Note that this means that enemy models that are not within engagement range but are within half an inch of a model that is within half an inch still cannot fight. So effectively this removes the second row of the enemy unit that's trying to fight you. So that's less melee attacks coming in at Belial. And next you've got Tactical Appraisal, which is 1 command point used in the command phase. You select a Dark Angels unit within the army that's within 6 inches of your Warlord, so that could be Belial. You then select 1 Combat Doctrine, and until the start of the next command phase, for the purposes of the unit, treat the Combat Doctrine as being active instead of the active Combat Doctrine. But this one's not so much for him, but if he teleports down with the Deathwing Terminators in turn 2, they can have the Assault Doctrine in effect, with a better AP to their weapons, and of course they can be using their Sons of the Lion Super Doctrine to reroll the wound rolls. Then from the Space Marine Codex you've got Only in Death does Duty End, which is 2 command points. Effectively, if he's been destroyed and he hasn't fought that phase, he can make his attacks before being removed. So that's the stratagems covered. So tactically speaking, you're going to be likely fielding him in the first company with your Deathwing Terminators and Deathwing Knights, who can also deep strike with him, which are all extremely good in melee, and Terminators can also shoot before you charge in. You can also bring the Deathwing Apothecary for added fun to keep bringing Deathwing models back each turn. This will then give Belial a 6+ for no pain save, and also can heal him D3 wounds per turn, a flat 3 if he's a Chief Apothecary with the trait, and healing 2 units per turn, using the stratagem for free as well, which is crazy good, especially with units such as Deathwing Knights, which are 47 points a man. Apothecaries also don't take up a detachment slot as they've got the command squad ability. Also, if you were worried about Belial being sniped off the board with those weapons that ignore the Lookout Sir ability, then bring a Deathwing command squad instead, as they've got the Bodyguard ability, which is while a friendly Dark Angels character unit with a wounds characteristic of 9 or less is within 3 inches of the unit, enemy models cannot target the character unit with ranged attacks. So this is not a Lookout Sir ability, this just basically says you cannot target the character. Again, these guys don't take up a slot in your list as well. To further protect Belial, you can bring a Deathwing Champion who always swings first in combat against characters. He's got the Martial Superiority ability, so characters are always fighting last against this guy. So a crazy amount of protection throughout this guy's datasheet and the synergy with other models. I'm sure there's more tricks you can pull off with Deathwing units. So I wanted to touch upon some potential Psycho abilities to buff him even further. So if you brought a Librarian in Terminator armor, they instantly get the Deathwing keyword. So Veil of Time lets you reroll that 9-inch charge from Deep Strike, and you'll be fighting first, not too bad. If you wanted the mega character for a phase, use the Might of Heroes on him for an additional +1 to his strength, toughness and attacks. Then from the Dark Angels powers you've got Mindworm to make the unit you're charging fight last, plus you throw a mortal wound at them just for giggles. Aversion to screw up the unit's attacks and hit rolls, and then Righteous Repugnance to reroll all hits and wounds in melee. That one's pretty disgusting on Thunderhammers for nearby units, but Belial already allows the rerolls to hits, and things like Lightning Claws reroll wounds already. So that's all the main synergies that Belial has at his disposal. Again, add more in the comments below. I'm sure some die-hard Deathwing players are screaming at the screen now saying that I've missed something. Let me know in the comments below. So let's move on to the summary, starting off with the good. Ridiculously tanky with all those abilities. Can't be wounded on less than a 4+ within a circle. A -1 to hit in melee with the parrying blade. -1 to his damage with his Warlord trait. Then add those bodyguards to prevent those snipers. In fact, his synergy in general is just fantastic with virtually every Deathwing unit. His other abilities to buff units are very good, Rites of Battle or the Grandmaster of the Deathwing in particular. He's then got Teleport Strike, so comes in where he wants, usually accompanied with Deathwing buddies. His weapon is wounded non-vehicles on 2s, which is actually unreal when you target the right unit. Then as for some bad, of course you can't select his own Warlord trait. Not that big of a deal because the one he's got is pretty good. No relics as his name, but to be honest he doesn't really need them. He's then got a 5-inch movement which is considered slow, but he's got teleport strike, so that kind of compensates for that. So really there's not much bad here. Now I know a lot of Dark Angels players are more geared towards the Ravenwing side of things, as they do appear stronger overall. But if you do play Deathwing, then Belial is a definite go-to. You do have options such as a Terminator Captain as a Chapter Master perhaps, or maybe a Chaplain in Terminator armour, as they both get access to the Deathwing keyword, and both of them can be more fine-tuned with their Warlord traits and the relics, but Belial I think is pretty cool. So for today I'm going to be giving Belial a Planet 40k rating of 4 out of 5. A solid unit compared to the other units within the Codex and the supplement. Guys, if you found the video useful today, show your support by subbing to the channel, smash a like on your exits. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.